You are about to watch, or watching now, the New Orleans TV Network system, emanating from New Orleans, Louisiana, and broadcasting. Oh, look at this. Broadcasting, of course, all over the place, live, simultaneously streaming on Facebook, my channel, under my name, Bob Bockelman, which Boeckelman, and my YouTube channel, R space Revue, which we'd love you to subscribe to. So if you haven't jumped on it yet and you're planning, that's where you'll watch the shows. Uh, we have 15 shows, in some of them in just programming stages, but we're getting, and we'll talk a little bit about a new one that's right coming down the pipeline very, very soon, and a couple of others that are close. Some of them are being delayed because of the coronavirus. And when we explain that, you'll understand the nature of the topic wouldn't be appropriate at this time. And as you know, the series we're doing at 10 a.m. weekdays and 2 p.m. weekdays, Monday through Friday, of course, pertain centering on the virus, but not so much the medical aspects, which are the most important, really, but secondarily to our livelihood, the actual economic impact, which is obvious, but specifically in the restaurant industry. For those who've been following the series, you know that we've been doing, first of all, individual surveys just from my contacts of restaurants that I use a lot, because I eat out a lot, as to what their status is: closed, open, to go. We know, ordering in advance or just at the door. You can do it at the door. Do they have a delivery service, full menu, limited menu? That's kind of questions. Um, as we mentioned, Monday we're going to be using the survey listing that council lady of East District has done for her constituents, so they would know about the restaurants. We're going to probably have to call them and ask them a few more questions to make it follow our programming, but it'll be all focused on the East. So if you live out there or frequent out there and you haven't had a chance to read or see her posting on her, obviously, website and Facebook situations, we will give it to you then, and you can then check back to it at any time on YouTube. As you know, Facebook usually keeps the live shows for I think it's 24 hours. Gives you a big 5 minutes advance notification. YouTube gives you approximately a half an hour, but is permanent. So that's why we encourage, and that's why more people watch on YouTube, because they can see it at their leisure. They get an earlier notification, because not everyone can make the live shows, even though now there really is a lot of good reason to be able to fill up some of your time of your day if you're at home sheltering in. And what we're hearing today, well, we don't want to talk too much yet because we're going to save it for the show. We have a few more minutes, but so we'll save that statement till after the beginning of the show. As I mentioned, we do produce live shows to you, 15 of which I don't want to be necessarily the solo host on the whole network, which I am for the most part now, although we are finally getting some co-hosts. This new program that we'll talk about after the guest is finished calling, because I got sidetracked, the old man always does. On the morning part of the Rant Review shows is going to be dedicated to trying to get a guest in the industry or impacted by the situation involving the industry to call in and give us his or her take on either location and or personal impact. Yesterday, we were lucky enough to have Chef Cynthia. She and her co-chef, Big Bui, own Cafe Min, very popular restaurant in New Orleans, Mid-City. And she went over what they were doing, how they've had to adapt to the changing environment, and how they're also putting out family meals for you to pick up because not everybody is a solo artist like myself. So this way you could feed a whole family, and it's good filling food that you could use over more than one time during the week. So it's great. We were glad to hear from her. I won't tell you yet. It's a little too close. I'll wait till we start about this morning's guest. The afternoon shows, like I say, for the most part, are dedicated to going over individual restaurants in our city based on my individual surveying and also the participation who I'm seeking out of all of our council folk um, to represent for their district. Not that they don't want to be bothered coming on, but at least if they've compiled or their assistants have compiled a list, we'll work off of that so we can use that as fodder for the afternoon show. This afternoon's programming is tentative, and some things have come up, so I'm not sure whether we don't have survey information other than for E, which we don't want to use. What I am doing is also collecting all of the individual restaurant Facebook publications of a special menu, whether it's limited or just, but still designated for this crisis. And I will probably try and do one or multiple consolidated postings of all those Facebook menus that have been posted for each restaurant. So that way I'll alphabetize, and that way you can go in and open it up and see what's available if you missed a show or don't know which show has the individual restaurant you're concerned about. So that'll hopefully be some tech stuff. I'll get a little time over the weekend and start doing that. What else was I going to say? Yeah, again, it's gotta watch the old clock. Oh, we still got 5 minutes. I'm meandering so much as we opened up. Did tell you that we opened up our live chat or comment section. So if you're on the social media platform, either Facebook under my name or YouTube under my channel, you can make any public comment or chat that will come out here on my screen. And if we deem it worthwhile for people to read, we'll bring it on the public screen. But we will certainly address it by either asking the guest or myself if it's something other than a shout out. So right now we have time to do shout outs, but as the audience grows and the topics with guests, we don't want to be interrupting the guests and say hello to some of our very appreciated watchers or viewers. That's a better term. But you do have the chat there. You can use that as getting to the guest or myself for any questions or any comments you want to make, as long as you keep them respectable. As you know, if the chef gives us, don't know what his time availability is, so if he has to leave for whatever purpose is, and we have a lot of open time, then of course we'll throw it open. As you notice, we have the number up, which yesterday I kept off until I might have to take that off. So that way you won't be called. Well, no, I want you to call Dirty Chef if it's a question, but so we'll try it today with the number on altogether. But certainly, if we finish our discussion in time, we would welcome you to, in addition to the chat or in lieu of doing the chat, we've added to this particular program the call-in feature to make it somewhat close to a talk show. We don't want to be known necessarily for such. It is a local phone number, as you see on the screen. So, of course, that means if you have a landline or a cell phone line, if you don't have a fixed amount of minutes or if you don't have unlimited, then it could be a chargeable call. It costs a wee bit more for an 800 number, so we have to see that this show and the other shows that also use it will benefit from the use of the 800, and if so, then we'll hopefully be able to bring that on to you as well. But the key here is that this is good because most folk, if you come through our computer software to make the call, then you have to remember to take off your camera on your phone or your laptop, disable it. Otherwise, you'll come live, and we're totally pleased to see you. But the majority of callers or people who call into a station or whatever do not want to be seen. So that's the advantage of using the phone number, is that it's strictly your lovely voice that we'll hear asking the questions or making the comments. That's a good there. Um, so avail yourself as such. We would love to hear from you in any one of the three options, I mean, two options, the chat comment section or the live phone conversation. If you are watching though and you see the chef is kind of in deep in this conversation, unless it's really germane to the particular moment that he's talking about, see if you can hold off to either a pause or maybe to the end, unless it's a critical question for him that you really need answered. If it's a question for me, let's hold off till we finish the discussion, or anything else till after we finish the discussion. That way we'll have ample time and won't be wasting his or not showing interest toward his presentation. Again, we have, let's see, oh, is that the time is correct? So folks, you are watching the New Orleans TV and Network live programming about to start in 1 minute. Our morning show, 10 a.m. weekdays, called Rant Revue, the not so talk show. Originally, you couldn't talk at all. It was all done by chat. Now we have several options. So, and the easiest being, which is the most similar to a talk show, a call in. The advantage is you get to see this lovely bug. You won't be seeing our chef because we didn't arrange for him to come to our software. This was the last minute situation yesterday evening. So we apologize for that, but we didn't get the permission. And so we want to just work within its constraints. We're planning hopefully to put him on his own, one of our own special shows dealing with restaurant chefs and or chefs catering a little bit later, and you'll understand why after he gives his presentation. All right. So again, we want to welcome you to Rant Revue. This is our 10 o'clock a.m. Central Daylight Time, 8 o'clock Pacific Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Let's see if I can really tax you. That's it. It would be 11 o'clock, 6 o'clock Europe time, 9 o'clock, I believe it is, in India. So some of our bases that we operate in, we operate all over, but where we know we have some followings for some of our shows and posts, etc. So we welcome all to the show. We'll hope you'll do two things. One, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Revue, so you'll always be noticing of any of our shows coming up, and you pick and choose what you want to see. And if you have time, like during this precarious situation we're in now, you're able to even watch it live, as opposed to if you had a conflict for the normally scheduled time. Okay, so please do that. Go ahead and subscribe to us for that, and take advantage of the calls if you wish to get your point across this morning. As I mentioned, the morning hours are going to, as best we can devote. The 10 o'clock shows will be devoted to trying to bring a guest on to talk about his or her analysis or eye view of the impact on their individual situation as well as the area they live in. And any suggestions, of course, positive suggestions for improvement, I will pass along to all the restaurants that I can, so we can see if there's additional ways we can improve this situation. Unfortunately, watching the TV in the morning is enough to ruin your day, because it continues to get worse every day. And some of the entire states, like California, are actually they don't want you to use lockdown, the term, because that's more of an incarceration related to people who are in our jails or whatever. But still, it's lockdown, and you're prohibited from both. But now you do get, the reason why they don't want to call it lockdown, you do get allowances to go to things like the grocery store within a certain period of your home, but you have to fill out these. How they're going to keep charging us, I don't know, but I guess if there's enough soldiers patrolling who have to check these documents, papers, it's just like we talk about the illegal aliens. It's almost going to be like that, where you'll have to fill out basic information to make sure that it's a legitimate visit, and that you don't say you go to the grocery, go visit someone else or do something that wouldn't be appropriate. So hopefully we don't have too many more states. I'm concerned for ours, because as you know, I think we were number two. I think we might be leading by now in the number of cases in the nation, but based on a per capita basis. That qualification is not. I mean, it's important because some of these other states are much larger, but at the same time, it's a horrible thing to be high up there. So, and they've shut down, a lot of our stuff, schools, restaurants, which we're going to talk about, theaters. That's the first step, and everyone is afraid it's going to take the California step. Hopefully, it won't. So you'll have to stay tuned to your choice of news resources on that. I cannot watch, even though I like some TV, I cannot watch that incessant reporting, whether it's federal or even local. Now our local governor, our mayor doesn't seem like she's is interested. She's deferring to the higher ups to give all this information. And I know I've told you, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to pass him. I'm going to edit myself, which is very unusual and usually gets me in trouble. So what we're going to do, as I mentioned, and let's go ahead and give details for you. We're trying to get guests on the morning segment to help pass while we're waiting for calls or to generate calls. And we are specifically targeting or focusing on the hospitality and specifically the restaurant and chefs' impact as a result of this worsening scenario. So we are going to be honored with a chef from the Chicago area who I've known for quite some time. And he's going to tell us, we always think, oh, the big cities are either, sometimes we think they're worse than us, sometimes we think they're better than us. We're going to get a bird's eye view, so to speak, from his perspective of how Chicago and his contacts are handling this particular situation from a restaurant and chef food situation as opposed to the medical situation. We're also going to hear from him about his personal story in the beginning, his coming to the point of being a chef, and then unfortunately something I won't give away, but how it's personally impacted him, the current situation. We also want to talk in the history part, the difficulty that I still have recognized for what I call the invisible chef. There's some other terms where chefs who are different nationalities other than Caucasian and male have always been sidelined or never given the promotion or the exposure or the respect that the traditionally male Caucasian industry has been dominated by. Finally, females are coming in, but still not in huge numbers. African Americans is what we will address this morning, but it also applies to Latinos and the Asian industry, which are huge components. You may never see these folks because they're in the back of the house, mainly the kitchen, doing the important part, and that is preparing the food. Because one chef don't make no restaurant. One chef has to, if it is, it's got to be a very small place. He has to have some type of assistance to prep, to do the whole thing, wash dishes. That's part of the food, but to recycle the things if we get to continue doing that, to continue to serve you. So it could be, I think, a very interesting. I'm hoping it'll be a very interesting discussion. And as we say, we really appreciate him taking his time. And I haven't said his name yet, but I am going to now. And then hopefully, as soon as he calls in, we'll reintroduce you. His name is Chef is Tim Johnson, but he goes by T.A. Johnson in many of his postings or his way of presenting it. But the actual name is Tim, or maybe Timothy. I don't even know that part. He's shortened it to make it, I guess, more professional by using, professional people use initials. So he's using his first and middle initial. And anyway, the basic thing is that he's lived in other parts of the state and was in the same business. So he can, even though he hasn't been there in a while, he can shed light on that as part of his story. Again, I'm going to remind you one last time because he's supposed to call in around 10 after, and Bob can't see. A couple of minutes before that. Sorry, my clock's these lights are, I'm so bad in seeing things because of my eye surgeries, and these glaring lights. You know, the paparazzi, call them paparazzi lights. They're surrounding me in my front and just blinding me totally, so I can hardly see anything. I do see, unfortunately, my ugly visage up there, but our great looking little, I blocked most of it because of my bulk logo with the megaphone. So avail yourself of the phone number 504-383-3654. Certainly after our guest, or if for some reason the guest is unable to make the call, but all after he finishes, or if you need to really during his presentation. We would love to hear from you at any time, but obviously when there's not a guest and it's just me, and well, appreciate it to no end of hearing directly from you, and or use the chat forums, comment forums in either one of your public social media platforms that we're broadcasting on, and those will actually be piped in here so we can address those as well. I don't know if there's too much now, but this is just a waiting game, and of course we don't got to think of things that won't be too interrupted before the call comes through. I don't know about you, but it's important to us. Yesterday, getting confused with the days. Everything's day and night now. Because I'm home, because I'm doing this, and I'm on the phone, which you don't want to all BS. But I noticed that one of our favorite Italian restaurants in New Orleans, we decided to pick up plates, and also with that, we call it cheesy bread. It's a wonderful French bread grilled with garlic and I forget if it's mozzarella. It's a white cheese, probably mozzarella, maybe fatina. And when you're eating it in the restaurant prior to or with your meal, it just is phenomenal. Sure enough, yesterday came and we got our traditional types of Sicilian style pasta with meatballs, a sausage, and the red gravy. And even though the restaurant is less than a 10-minute drive from here, the bread at that point was cold. You could tell it had been cooked, of course, because the cheese was all melted. And of course, we ate it. It wasn't hard or anything, but just there's nothing better than sitting there and they bring out that loaf. I've always judged New Orleans restaurants by the bread, even though we're not supposed to eat that anymore. But the quality of the bread, the taste of the bread was be a forerunner of what you had in store in your meals. And we can talk about that at one of our restaurant shows. But I'm just expressing something that has been always consistent, something we do maybe once every 2 weeks for this particular restaurant, even though we rotate about Italian restaurants. So it was a little disappointing. The bread again, the food was still good. We didn't reheat. I guess maybe we should do that, but that's even further delaying it. And like I said, the food was good, so it was warm. It wasn't hot, but it was warm. But the bread, so we know next time we're not going to be ordering, our usual accompaniment, which really, maybe we'll have to go to Italian salad, which they do a bang up job. We'll see if that hopefully is a better match for takeout. So takeout is not only having its effect on the restaurant itself, it is on the diners, because again, whether a third party or the restaurant is delivering it, or you have someone in your family that is good, is working still, which is still happening here in New Orleans, and picks it up for you, there's going to be some reduction in the quality based on, if nothing else, the temperature of the food that you're going to be eating. It's not going to be anywhere near if it has to be warm or hot, it's not going to be anywhere near that unless you take to that horrible thing, the microwave, or I use like a toaster oven instead of putting it in a big oven. Anyway, that's enough about that plight. But that was my first disappointment. We've done, this was last night we brought pizza. We were out doing some stuff and pick pizza up. And of course, the pizza place only like 5 minutes. So it was great. And we don't use it too much, the franchises. This is independent. We really like their product uptown. So that was still same quality, because we do that a lot. So we're going to try and limit it for a while to things that aren't really our favorite dishes or aren't really requiring reheating. I guess po' boy sandwiches, which is a big hit down here, which normally I reserve for lunch as opposed to dinner. We'll probably be eating more of that. Uh, the inevitable burgers and stuff like that, which I dread some of that. Anyway, I'm wasting your time, I understand, but I'm trying to not get into any heavy subject or detailed subject until we hear from our caller. I've got my Facebook on to make sure that he doesn't, yeah, he hasn't sent any kind of message that he's not going to be able to come or call. So we're hoping we just, everybody, I know I'm still in, as I've been bemoaned lately, I'm still hung up from the change of time. I love daylight saving times, but I hate the changeover because I just can't get up in the morning. And if I do get up at my regular earlier time, that's earlier than daylight time. So I usually doze off as soon as I get a lunch. I mean, I'm like that, out like a light for maybe a half an hour to an hour, wasting my day. But at the same time, this is the hardcore facts of whether you're retired only at home like myself, or disabled, unable to get out on your own because of limitations, or quarantined because self or otherwise because of this national pandemic that we're undergoing. So those are the things that you are affecting your day-to-day life. So here, if we all had everything opened up and we had this leisure time, it would be fabulous. It'd be vacation, stay vacation, or staycation, whatever they call it, because you could go where you want, mingle with whom you want, and stuff like that. I have to make a comment. I know we're all been young and stupid, but I just can't understand the spring break, where spring break is so important to these kids. And they want to make statements like, well, they're adults and they can make those decisions. Or they really don't believe the rumor mongering that this academic pandemic is of such proportion. I mean, I guess they don't watch TV or listen to see how you think China and Italy just makes up different numbers every day to see who can outbeat the other one, or it's just absurd that and I think unconscionable, even in America, that the governors or mayors of the town would allow those beaches to remain open. Now, slowly but surely, they are closing them. But some of them, I think one still remains open, and they promise to have police patrols to kind of thin out the crowds. Or, first of all, the damage has already been done. They've been there for X number of days. So I don't know how far that's going to help. At least the ones who finally are closing down today or have closed down earlier recognize that that is truly the only way to avoid this. Because the young group, no matter how immortal we always used to think we were, and currently think today's are, have been, if they would pay attention, would see that the illness, the diagnosis of the disease, the virus, is affecting young folk as well. It's not, but they just feel that they're so strong that they'll get through it with just some minor inconvenience if they get it at all. Okay, well, again, we don't want to dwell on those things. I'm hoping, running a little late here. Like I said, I guess I could have talked. Hopefully, you'll stay with us. I see the numbers jumping up and down. I do apologize. I had set up for our guest to call at 10 minutes after. Yesterday, Cynthia was a little bit later. Yesterday, she's working at her restaurant, preparing with the limited staff, mainly using her family members who work in the restaurant anyway as our mainstay crew, so not to have to pay some additional wages when not as much revenue is coming in, but just reformulating the menu to accommodate this, and how to get the logistics of delivery. I forget if they do delivery. Anyway, don't tax me those. But say if they're doing delivery or using a service, or whether it's curbside, whether they can order in advance or just at the door, all those things have to be addressed. And obviously, this is only the fifth day since the shutdown, or fourth day since the shutdown. So there's a lot of work that have to be done. And of course, they're panicking themselves into the fear that, whether they will actually be able to continue. Will they be able to come back? Especially with some of the forecasters, who are whatever they're virologists who are making more dire projections now instead of happiness rainbows. So it's a lot to assume. I have to say, several of the restaurants, which I was very surprised, have closed, and they won't even commit. Just some of them will state factually that we're not coming back, we're not returning now. I don't know. I think if it came back and they saw the flourishing business, they would come back, especially if they got enough financial help to kind of compensate as much as possible for this loss, economic loss. Um, but it is strange. And of the ones I do, we like to eat breakfast out a lot. Not so much during the weekday because my friend who drives me and dines with me has to work in the morning, so it's only like on the weekends, or sometimes we'll go at nighttime if a restaurant still serves breakfast because I've always loved to eat breakfast at night. And almost of the maybe five, 4 or 5. Some were not. I surveyed between the 1 and 2 o'clock hour, which sometimes, but most of them would also stay open through lunch, usually to 2 o'clock. But either they shut down early and I couldn't reach them, or they're not opening at all. And I guess because most people don't want to uh, take out breakfast items, especially the traditional sit down American style breakfast, except for these franchise things, which I can't understand. I mean, my friend loves breakfast sandwiches, and it's totally incongruous to me why you would have to take a meal always independent of another meal and coordinate and make it into a hybrid. And even worse, to be able to eat it on the go on a road. Just, I'm old time. I'm used to having, unfortunately, good service, even tablecloths if necessary. I can abide some of those, but I like to have sit down. I don't do buffets. I don't do cafeterias. It's not a snobbish thing. I just don't like to see food out. And usually, with that, not only draw some insects, but even more importantly, the quality of the food once it starts touching the air. Just like I explained the time differential of the takeout for one of our favorite restaurants yesterday, how it affected one of our favorite accompaniments, the garlic cheesy bread. So that's why I'm not comfortable with all those. And I guess, like I say, since the ones we're talking about, these great independent restaurants that serve wonderful breakfast and light lunch, probably are not going to reopen until this situation ends. Um, um, as you can see, I'm killing time. If anyone wants to call in, I would love to hear that from you, or type of chat, public chat, or comment. We'll address that. It would give me something to speak about rather than just pulling out of the air, since I was hoping that we would have heard from the guest. Um, his personal situation, which, like I say, also changed yesterday, might have affected, even though I thought I verified with him that he was still going to be able to come on. So maybe hindsight, or maybe that was a little bit too quick in his decision, and maybe something has affected him personally that's not allowing him to call. I'm hoping he should be on standard time, because daylight time, because Chicago's Midwest, and unless they didn't gravitate to daylight savings time, but I think only a few states that really avoid it. I thought they were out in the West, Utah, Arizona, someplace like that. I don't know all those things. I don't keep up with all that stuff. But anyway, so please, if not, I'll go ahead. I keep saying because I'm trying to grasp for think on my not on my feet, but on my butt, and think of something else that won't take a lot and won't get too in deep while we're waiting the call. So if you want to go ahead and give us a call at 504-383-3654, we would certainly appreciate it. We appreciate and really ask you to call as often as you sign in. Let's make it interactive, and even the chat, which I know you're respecting probably my eyes. I know when something comes up, and all I have to do is do this. Get a little closer and maybe bring out the old magnifying glass, which I keep handing, and I'll be able to even address that for you. So if if you can bear with this old man, as I don't know who says, um, that we can make a show of it, by golly. Anyway, uh, let's talk a little bit about then programming. Okay, I know it's off the subject, but here on the channel. But again, I'm trying to think of something that we can talk about where I can just cut it off quickly, so we can speak to our guest if he makes the call. As I mentioned, we have 15 programs already, some of which are in fruition, nine of which were developed before our incarnation, before January or February of this year. And we added six more, trying to run the gamut of categories that might have interest in a following. As I mentioned, that we do have interesting that you could go to Facebook, um, or YouTube. Let's go back to YouTube because that's what it keeps. When I first, when I was waiting for us to go live, to wait through all the technical things, I actually started recording what I call a PSA, public service announcement. And it was really this announcement about our program. So I took each of the programs at that point, all nine, I think, or maybe I had 10 or 11. I don't have to go back and see, since I was creating them as fast as I was doing them. And developed it was 10 minutes to 20-minute long presentation on what the show would look like. Now, what the backdrop is, pretty much the formats of the show are the same. So, we didn't have to go into too much differentiation there, but the look of the show, when it was going to be anticipated being on, which day or night of the week. And so you can go back and see what you like. As I say, the remaining six or five we've added since January, not all of those have a PSA. However, if we have a show that we already taped, not taped, but put into our archive on YouTube, then you can go ahead and see what the nature of the show is, in case you want to find that. But we're hoping that you like the shows. Of course, the restaurant shows, three of which we have, one being Restaurant Revue, which is in New Orleans, only New Orleans chefs and restaurants. That's our baby that started the whole thing off back in 2000. And then when we went to the internet, because since those were limited to New Orleans restaurants, and that was our extent of our reach, we developed two new shows so we could hear and see from chefs around the whole place. So we have a Chef's Chat USA, which deals with outside of the New Orleans area, rest of Louisiana, and all the other 50 some odd states. And there we go. Let's see if we can. I'm glad to hear this coming in. All right. Uh-oh. Something's not right. Do. Oh, I see. Hold on. No. Oh, shoot. I lost him. Was that Cafe Min calling? Oh, wait. Yep, that wasn't our caller, but at the same time, the technical part of it did not. If I call her, let's see. Let me bring this back up. If our caller wants to call back, I apologize. I don't want to call them out. Oh, goodness, we don't need this, So someone left a voice message, and I believe that was our friends at Cafe Min. Um, but we're still waiting. I gotta see what the problem is for any of our callers. I see. Okay, that was Cafe Min, our friends, and I apologize, but for some reason, and it's not doing right. Let me see what the problem is here first. You'll have to bear with me, folks. After hearing all the boring thing, I might have to go beyond this. So let's have a moment. I guess we could call it a commercial break. No, we can't do that. I don't want to lose you all. At the same time, I'm not seeing why the proper phone thing is not coming in either. I was too late for the call, and well, what we'll do is let me place the call. I wonder if I can bear with me, folks. We've never done this before. Yeah, man.
Good morning, Captain.
Good morning. It's Bob Bockelman. Did someone just call me? I'm on the show. I didn't know if they wanted to talk on the show. Either Cynthia or
Bob.
Tweet. Yeah. Hey, Ming.
I think. Did you call Bob? Yeah. You want to talk to him? Talk later, right?
What's up, Bob?
Someone just called me, and I'm online waiting for another call. I was just wondering if something you wanted to say about the show, or if not.
Oh no, I'm busy right now. I have got a ton of orders, and it's picking up in an hour and a half.
Congratulations. Let me talk to you another time then. Thank you.
Okay,
Take care.
Bob.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, folks. There we go there. So I know I can make a call out from now on, but I'm not seeing why I can't get the proper screen for wonderful paces. I know a lot of people. I know I'm not patient, so I don't know if I could stand it. But again, if you care to call, 504-383-3654. We would love to hear from you and verify and bear with me if I'm really having technological problems, as opposed to just the old guy behind the controls. Then we might shut down the show anyway, because we certainly wanted to hear from our caller, great representative of the industry, and it doesn't look like he's called in. So I'm seeing all the calls, but he has not called in, and it hasn't gone through the one we tried to pick up on. So if you want to issue any kind of public comment or chat, please do so, and let me know what's the problem. If you're in the business and you know what Stupid Bob is doing wrong, then please do, especially if you use that same software streaming that we use, because you can do a better job of explaining to me if I've made a mistake. Heretofore, it was just one little block that you have to check, and if you didn't check that, then, well, usually that's when a caller calls in and wants to talk to a guest. So, but we check it all the time anyway to make sure everything now automatically works. But this time it did not bring up the appropriate. There's a sub screen that changes the keypad to for me to be able to pick up the call. I don't know why it's not doing that. I don't know. So anyway, all right, folks. Well, we'll continue for a little bit longer. See if anyone else calls in. Finishing up what we're talking about the programming. So we have all these programs out there: Restaurant Review, Chef's Chat USA and worldwide. We have the Artist Review, doing beautiful work. We're hard to get photographers. We get sculptors, get predominantly painters locally as well as out of the country. Sculptors, somewhat, not as much as we'd like. And photographers are just really hard to come by. Not so much to identify, but to get them to come on. I think I expressed that many times, that perhaps photography has always been like the stepchild of arts, and like for sale, especially, their value is never what it should be from a market standpoint. Anyway, besides that, we have a new one we're trying to get off the ground called Readers Review, trying to get authors and our people who read a lot, who like a member of a book club, to come on and talk about a particular book they like. We have one that we currently been doing for years now, Real Review, REEL, whereby we bring on filmmakers and actors. Of course, it was much heavier when we were the Hollywood of the South. It's now that it's semi-regenerating until this virus thing, we were hoping to be able to recreate that show and get lifeblood back into it, because the industry was starting to come back. We do have a few that aren't under the umbrella of our review, and one of them we are coming up hopefully next week, and that's called Know Your Nonprofit, KNOW, whereby we bring usually mom and pop or independent nonprofits on for a whole hour to see and hear about their services that they render to the communities or their specific mission. It's very popular. We don't do the big guys because they already get enough get funding as well as enough exposure. In addition to our very popular show going for several years now, Talk to the Tarot, just had that on Wednesday nights, where people can call in and have their tarot cards read live, or using the same person who's a psychic medium actually hear from someone who's passed on in their lives that wishes to speak to them, or vice versa. So that's a fun show. Those two are not. We have the new ones, as I mentioned, Roots Review, ROOTS Review. We just were able to negotiate. We have a horticulturist coming on. We're going to do a co-hosting weekly show, tentatively down for Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. It might not be next week, but hopefully it might be. The Know Your Nonprofit, we will have a show, we believe, next week on a new one that's just formed. They're getting their mechanical parts lined up in their office so that they can do the broadcasting from their office. That was strictly a technical situation that should be resolved daily anyway. What other ones besides Roots Review? Rome. Well, this is one of the ones I told at the beginning that we've held off, ROAM, or City Rome, ROME, whereby we have a travel agent who co-hosts the show and tells us all the wonderful places we could go when we're back to reality. Well, this is reality. When we're back to pre-virus, let's just call it. I don't know who knows what to call it. It's so upsetting. But anyway, this gentleman, and he pipes in from England, so that'll be fun. Won't be a local guy or even a USA guy, and so we'll have different perspectives. So that'll be. We also have we'll be going to hotels that we like to see, that personally, but we'll be speaking with the managers of the hotel or whatever they're representing and seeing their rooms and their accommodations. We have one in England to start off with right away, but again, we're holding that off until such time that the virus is no longer a major factor in their area as well as our area. Hopefully soon. Trying to think if there's any realty review, REALTY, is about real estate, and we wanted to pair it with an interior design challenge. Well, I started off, I had a team of real estate agents. We did one show, which was dynamite, not with the interior design, just where they promote their listings and did a video tour as well as pictures, and was a very affable young man, so very talented in his business. However, he and the other two team members, which were from different areas, we wanted to give different perspectives in our community from not having just with one agency or stuff like that. They decided the hour-long format was too long for them. They want today's young folk, of course, today's society is a me-centric and also a impossibility to maintain their retention of focus and interest. So that's why it has to be visual, it has to be quick. And even though that might be, if you were looking to sell something, that probably is definitely true today. But our whole motto and program and our mission is to give an in-depth look at whatever topic and or guest that we are host that we have on. So we were coming up with the idea of also doing an interior design challenge whereby they would take one of the rooms in the listing and virtually design it for us. However, the interior designers are harder to get, even if they had their own program. So that program has been in abeyance since the initial issue, unfortunately. But we'll keep trying to see if we can find someone who's hungry, a new realtor or something who would like to get at least exposure, if not sales. I think that's the majority of the ones. Rhythms Review. It's an old line one where before Rhythms Review was part of the Restaurant Review thing, whereby we would bring on, instead of having commercials, we would bring on a individual or a band. We were in TV studios at that time, so better acoustics, a better room, and they would do 3 original songs for us. Had to be original, not copyrighted. And so we pulled those off and made our own show, Rhythms Review. We really don't have the access now to it, but with all the advent of YouTube itself and all the self videos on their phones, that we really don't have much of an outreach to these young folks or whatever to actually show them, even if it's something they've already done and published. But we'll keep, again, we don't give up. So we'll keep plowing out there and see if we can find people that are interested. So our final request to you before we sign off, even though it's only what time is it? Oh, it's 10:41. I didn't know it was that late. Okay, so our final request is please, please, please. First, as I've said in the beginning, subscribe to my YouTube channel, R_REVUE. One, it makes it easier for you when you want to come back and see any of the shows. 2, even if you never watch a show, if you do it as a favor. One human being, I know it's not as good as giving you a roll of toilet paper, but the appreciation will be tremendous. I'm trying to get, I don't expect to get thousands. I have thousands of friends on my Facebook and all, but even asking them over and over, I get very limited, not even triple digits of subscribers. So if you could please do that, just subscribe to the channel, even if you never plan on watching any of the shows. But if you ever see any of these that might be of interest, whether they're new or current or old, way back to TV, please give them a chance and see if hey, that's not too bad. It's whenever I got nothing to do, or if there's reruns like in the summer or now where there's too much TV, this could be a different situation. Remember, you could also, even though you can see this on your phone, horrible, or your laptop or PC, just as bad. What I do is actually cast, if you understand what that means, from the program directly to TV, especially since we have big TVs. That way my bad eyes can see it and I can appreciate it to be the way it should be. Now, not so much when you're just looking at me, but when you see a guest and or his or her pictures or videos that will reflect what we're talking about in his or her passion. That makes it a lot more nice on the video by watching it on the TV screen. The other thing is to please if you do check us out, please interact. I mean, just send a little chat. Hi, Bob. Even just a shout out on your social media, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, so we can see it and maybe pass it along, especially if it's got something of importance. And or with the ones that have the calls, this is what it will definitely always be very caller dependent. The tarot show does, and the soon-to-be gardening show will be there, where you'll get good gardening tips. Horticulture will be giving out and answering questions, so that way phone will play a lot more important role. All right. Well, again, as I mentioned, because of some other commitments, there's a chance that I won't be doing the 2 o'clock live broadcast of Rant Review today. Monday, we hopefully will have a guest in the morning that will call in and give you some insight into their perspective of what's going on specifically in the hospitality area. Later on, we might broaden it beyond the hospitality or restaurant area, but we like to cover things that are so critical because in New Orleans, food, eating out and food is such a vital of every part of life, but not everybody likes to cook because we have such a great proliferation of restaurants. So we wouldn't talk to these people as much. And our surveys results of each location will be done in the afternoons. So if we don't check back with you this afternoon, if something happens that changes, we'll come back on and find a topic to talk about. Then you'll try and have a good weekend. It's hard to have a good weekend when you're confined, but it used to be the days, weekends, and were the days that we look forward to with like many 2-day vacations. If not, we'll see you back on Monday, or if something else develops, and we might do some don't want to do a lot of broadcasting on the weekends yet. That should be your own thing. But with everyone being home, who knows? We might kick the habit. We do have some other shows, but lastly, send any referrals for shows, whether it's a show idea, yourself to be on, another guest, topics, to one of two sources. One, Bob at rrevue.net, not com. Bob at rrevue.net, the old email, or Bob Bockelman on Facebook Messenger. Those are my two primary. I can get text messages. As I tell you before, my phone doesn't notify me when I get a text, so I've got to get in the habit, since I'm exclusive to Facebook Messenger, of checking that every day, which I do at least once, and pick up all the ones that have come in that day. Okay. For those who, if anyone, I see a few, have been this loyal and appreciative, but we can't thank you enough for hanging in there with us, especially when we have these regrettable situations. So from now, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down a little early, and I apologize for our guests not being here, but we look forward to seeing you, if not this afternoon. If we don't do it, then certainly Monday at 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Thank you, folks. Bye.